Welcome, trainees, to another session of this wonderful program. A program intended to put you all in the professional trajectory of becoming journalists and doing your work more effectively. This training is to boost the level of professionalism in carrying out your journalistic tasks that you might be assigned to do. Today, we'll be looking, or we will be focusing on the role of television in rural development. The role of television in rural development. Three-piece Media Limited, as we have all, as we all know, has two TVs. We have the Ecstasy TV and Afro Connect TV, and the role these TV play is for information, education, and entertainment. Television, as it is, play a very important role in the development of the world, the nation, and any community. Television, as we have learned in previous session, combines visual and audio. That is why it is called an audiovisual device or equipment. How can rural development be initiated through TV? How can rural development be promoted through TV? In some previous sessions, some of you asked questions about what if there are no events to cover? What would someone do in case of no event? Uh, Even if there are no special events that are being organized, such as convocation, birthday, and matriculation ceremonies, amongst other events that might be organized, there are situations that occur on daily basis that are newsworthy. In fact, every day there are numerous newsworthy stories. Newsworthy stories are everywhere every day. If the media would focus on covering all the events that happen on earth, it will not be able to finish. That is the reason the most important events are being selected, or pressing situations are being selected to be transmitted. And the reason some of these situations are left out is because of is because of not being aware that such situations are existing in particular location. The rural settlement has numerous challenges that newsworthy stories can be obtained in rural settlements. You can go to any rural settlement and obtain stories there. There are a lot of things happening, even in your locality, in your village, in your rural settlement. There are situations there that are unpleasant. There have been news about rural electrification, connecting electricity in rural areas. Has that been done in all the rural areas. If electricity has not been connected to all the rural areas as being planned and stated by the federal government and other efforts being made, then what could be the reason for the inability of the federal government to complete the rural electrification? This is something that reporters should actually dig deep to find out, because it is expected that rural areas should have electricity. So television can be used to present to the government that these areas, these rural areas, have not got electricity. So whatever needs to be done to ensure that electricity is brought to these rural areas should be taken into cognizance. So it is the responsibility of journalists. You know, journalists are, are, are people who stand between the government and the masses, the government and the public. The media stands between, it's like a bridge. The media tells the government what the people are going through, the situations they are facing. And the media also takes information from the government to the masses, what the government has said, or what the government intends to do, or what the government is doing. So the media plays a very important role in connecting the government with the people and the people with the government. That is the reason when the government has certain things to do, press conferences are held, media houses are tasked with the responsibility of rewriting or taking the press releases and putting them in a news format so that the message can be passed to the masses. So the media is very important. Now, in rural development, the reason television is instrumental and the most powerful way of communicating rural challenges to the government is because of its audiovisual composition. By the time pictures are obtained in rural areas and dwellers, settlers, villagers are able to express what they feel about such situations in which pictures are obtained, visuals are obtained, and transmitted, it will make a more significant impact than when it is only being heard and not seen, or when the pictures are only taken. You know, when you have motion pictures of certain situations, people believe what is being seen than what is being photographed or what is being heard on radio only or seen in newspaper. So you see the power of television. It clears anybody's doubt, because on radio one might just feel that, well, the person who is talking is just talking, nothing serious, because the listener might not be able to see what is on ground that has led to the person's complaint. So the listener might not know the gravity of the situation the person complaining is in, or the people in a particular communities are in, because the listener will only be listening to the voices of those complaining, or the voice of the person talking about whatever plight they might be going through. But when it comes to television, it shows the situation. If it is a flood that occurred or houses being burnt down, you will be seeing the pictures of these houses and people moving around. You see the erosion occurring, the flooding occurring, and then you see those displayed talking. So you will feel you will feel the pains they are going through by the time you see these things than seeing only in photograph and then listening to what they say. So television has a very powerful role to play and has been playing powerful role in rural development by ensuring that rural development is being initiated or carried out. Journalists must visit rural areas because for a reporter to cover any situation in the rural area, it is not done by proxy. You can't be far away and expect to get visuals, motion pictures of any situations being undergone by rural dwellers. You have to be there present. You have to be there to take visuals, motion pictures of whatever situation that you feel the government needs to know. You need to interview people who are facing such situations in the village or in the rural areas, because there are rural areas where I have been to, and I was able to take inventory of various challenges being faced by such rural dwellers. In some places, you see that they have challenges of bridges. In some places, once it is rainy season, transportation movement in those areas become a problem because places that people normally pass during dry season are, are being disturbed with water, filled with water everywhere, that it prevents people to transport their agricultural produce to where they can market. And then those who would have been there to buy would be unable to go there because of the level of water that is being filled up in those areas because of lack of bridges. So reporting from that kind of area would spur people up to do something. At times, reporting for rural impact or development might not necessarily mean that the government should come and do something, but there may be people who are from that place that such a report would move them to come and fix certain things by watching their people suffering on TV, because some people hardly go to the village, hardly go to rural areas since they are based in big cities, Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt, and other places. They hardly go to the villages to know what is going on. Some, whatever happens, they only send people to do that. So by the time they see the videos of their people undergoing such plight, they would independently sponsor the building of those bridges. Bridges in the villages are small bridges in most cases, and they are not extremely capital intensive like other bridges in modern cities. So there are people who have single-handedly constructed bridges or built bridges for their people in various communities, courtesy of television, because television has been an instrument to bring the plight of these people to the government and those who might be moved to help. International donors and other donors, including NGOs, non-governmental organizations, are being moved by such videos, such news. So TV portrays such news, and they see that this group of persons from these areas are suffering. A particular village in this local government are suffering. Some, it could be water, drinkable water. They may lack drinkable water. During this period, dry season is normally a time where water becomes very scarce. So rural reporting would emphasize the need to actually sink boreholes in those areas. It could be motorized boreholes or hand lift boreholes that could be could be sunk in those areas, so that uh, could be sunk in those areas, so that it could ease the stress of looking for water, because the streams that they normally go to get water are normally dried up this period. So a reporter, a television journalist, can cover such and put it to the public, to the government, to those who might be moved to do that. If you go to certain rural areas, you will see ongoing projects that are being carried out because of certain reports that are being given by media practitioners, by journalists. So television normally brings out the situation in a more believable way. So you as trainees should understand that your role is not only to wait until an event happens before you go there to cover, or you wait till an accident occur before you go to report on the scene of the accident. You can move around and ask questions to know what people are going through, and you can do a story about that. You can go to choosing rural areas, you can make contacts, you can call people and ask, in your rural area or settlement, what are the basic challenges? Some will tell you, well, we don't have fertilizer to farm. Our soils are not fertile, so whatever we plant doesn't produce much, or doesn't yield much. So we need fertilizer to help us farm well. Some will tell you that they want mechanized farming, so they need tractors and other equipment and machines for mechanized farming, so that they can farm in large scale. Some will tell you that the road network in the rural areas, uh, the road network in the rural areas is not good. So they find it difficult to venture into certain activities, and certain buyers don't like going to those places to buy oranges, mangoes, yams, and other produce because of the bad road. So it affects their sales, and because of that, some or most of their produce gets spoiled because they are perishable goods, consumables, perishable goods like tomatoes, pepper, and the rest. They have a lifespan. You need to do away with them within certain period, or else they perish, they get spoiled. So they are facing these challenges, and then some will tell you we lack good schools, or we don't even have a school in our rural area. Others will tell you, well, we have schools, but we lack benches, desks, we lack quality teachers, or there are no teachers or few teachers, and then we lack a conducive environment to learn effectively. Then some will tell you about primary health care. We don't have a primary health care. When women get pregnant, they find it difficult to get a place for delivery, and then the stress of moving, trying to reach the town, resort to certain health challenges. So there are a lot of stories that can be obtained in rural areas to bring the attention of the government and international organizations and others who might be willing to support, so that they would take such very seriously. So you are expected to do that too. It's not just waiting for event. So there are many situations that can be covered, many problems people are going through, many challenges that can be covered and shown on TV for the government to do something, and those who might be interested in helping. Apart from challenges that are being faced in rural areas, there are also people who are in rural communities that are talented. But because they are far from the city, the world, or the nation, or the states, or even their local government doesn't know that such talent exists. As you go to the rural areas to look for newsworthy stories, you can come across people who are gifted in certain areas. You can see people who are musicians, who are gifted, who know how to sing. Let me put it that way. People who are gifted in singing, then some are gifted in drawing, some may be gifted in tailoring, and some may have other skills that are extraordinary. So you can be in such an area and interview the person, parents or guardians, and be able to get certain information about the person's originality, the family, education background, the history, education history, and then how the person discovered themselves in what they do. So you can conduct an interview, intensive interview on that, and then the person might display some of the things they produce. If the person is actually constructing anything, you can take shots of those constructions and then bring it to the public, bring it on air so that the people will see, the government will also see, and others will see as well, so that those who are moved to help can do that, those who are moved to support. At times, the government can decide to sponsor. In that situation, some persons might get scholarships from such story. So apart from portraying rural challenges, the television can also portray rural talent. There are people who are talented that are in rural areas and their talent are just dying there because they are not making any significant impact of that. So they need an environment where they can explore their talents and be able to discover more things to make a significant impact. So certain environment cannot warrant certain discovery because you need to be in a better environment for certain discoveries to be made. That is the reason those in rural areas have a level of understanding that as long as they remain in rural areas, their understanding cannot exceed the level it has been. So they need to move away from that to go to an area where they can be exposed to certain things and more advanced knowledge, be exposed to advanced knowledge that would actually give them the power to explore more of what they have. So television journalists have a very powerful role to play in this, in rural, in bringing rural challenges to the public, to the government and others, and then promoting talents and order in rural communities. A television journalist is supposed to also consider certain things in rural communities that can bring investors. You know, there are certain people who are willing to invest. They are willing to invest and be in a place where they can have access to raw materials, because once you have raw materials where your company is situated, it will save the cost of transporting those raw materials to the production site. So most people would want to establish their company close to an area where the raw materials are easily accessible. For instance, in Benue State, which is my state of origin, and Bandika local government, which is my local government of origin, there are a lot of oranges, including Konshisha local government, which form Jechira, that is made up of Pandikia and Konshisha. So there are a lot of oranges that these two local governments produce. So if one wants to establish a juice company, Someone can promote the natural resources or some of the agricultural produce that these local government have. So by putting that to the public, those who want to invest in juice production or any product that requires oranges for their final production might want to situate or put the company close to the local government, even if it is not going to be in any of these local governments. It will be in a local government close to where the raw materials can be transported easily. So it will reduce the cost of transportation. So that is how it works. So by promoting rural resources, it will also promote development, because a lot of resources in certain rural areas that the public and even the government is not aware that the local government, a particular local government, has such enormous resources and maybe produce that can actually be patronized. So television can put this in the know, can bring this to the public, to the government. So reporters who are reporting for television are supposed to know this so that they will be able to make significant impact. By doing this, you bring people to invest, and then you see that the rural areas will begin to feel certain impacts, which will bring certain benefits as well, because of the fact that their rural communities are producing certain things that are making impact. So the media through TV can be able to make this possible. So you are trained to understand that there are various areas of reportage, and rural area is one of them that should not be taken for granted or should not be ignored. It should not be ignored at all, because if rural communities are being ignored, certain impacts would not be made, especially in the area of agriculture, because most of the produce that are being obtained are cultivated in the villages, in the rural areas, and then transported to the towns, to the urban cities, urban areas where they are being consumed or sold. So, since there are no vast lands, uh, virgin lands or vast lands for agricultural purposes in the cities, the rural areas become places where agricultural activities are being carried out. So it is expected that uh, television journalists should promote activities in rural areas, bring out the challenges that are being faced in rural communities, create awareness on certain issues in rural communities. Television journalists are also expected to take sensitive government messages to rural communities. How can this be done? The government can pass an information that requires rural dwellers to adhere to as well. Because during the time of COVID-19 and Ebola, I think, came during the time of former President Jonathan, and then the COVID-19 under President Muhammadu Buhari. So television played significant role in educating people, telling them what they ought to do. And the media generally focused on informing the rural dwellers of preventive measures and things they should do to avert certain dangers. So television has a role to play in making rural dwellers or people in the villages to take uh, to take things, certain things very seriously and know how to prevent certain dangers from occurring. It is important that rural communities, areas, settlements should not be ignored in news coverage. Their activities should be brought forth. Their activities should be covered so that it will actually uh, make people, make the government to understand what they are going through and how or what can be done to tackle the challenges they are facing. And if there are people to develop, if there are talents to develop, in which or what are the areas that these talents are found, and who are those that can help to develop these talents. Once these talents are being found, people who have certain talents in some areas can be offered scholarships to schools so that they can be exposed to the frontier of knowledge. They can be able to explore the frontier of knowledge in a more advanced situation and be able to get the basis and the rudimentary aspects of that area of talent so that the sky will not just be the sky will not be their beginning, it will not be their limit, but will be their beginning. How can rural reporting be done? Once you want to go to any rural area to conduct any news story, to conduct any research, to find out what they are going through, you can decide. It must not necessarily be your own place. It must not be your own place. It must not be where you you originate from. No, it shouldn't. It must not be there. But that doesn't mean you cannot bring the situation of your people to the public, to the government. But you can decide to choose any location for your story. You can ask these people living in this area what is the major thing they produce and what level of production uh, can they produce. You need to know the level of production. We talk about in Benue State, we talk about yam production, and then you talk about Ukum in Zakibiam. It's an area that produces yam in a very large magnitude. So anything about yam production, you talk about Zakibiam in Ukum local government area. So if certain investors wants to come and do a flood using yam, they may prefer to site their company somewhere very close to Zakibiam, even if it's not going to be in Zakibiam precisely. So by bringing that, it would bring to the public and the government the scale which certain produce are being obtained or produced in a particular place or a community. So it is very important that this be made a priority too. So by the time you ask to know this, you now put a story. How have they been utilizing this? What is the level of sales, the level of damages, cost? So how do they normally sell this? Do they take this to places to sell, or buyers come to buy? At what rate? You try to know so that if there are challenges that should require the assistance of the government, it will be made known, because these people pay revenue, they pay taxes. I mean, they generate revenue for the government too, because they pay taxes, which in turn give the government revenue. And the government also needs to make ensure that their produce are well utilized to generate more revenue for the government. You, in your coverage, you will let the government and the public to know the benefit of putting certain things in place. If there are no bridges to certain areas which will reduce the rate of uh, buying or trading. You should try to let the government know the benefit of ensuring that bridges are being fixed, so that the more people come to buy, the more taxes they will pay and the more revenue for the government. Because certain things, the reason the government is not making revenue the way it should be, is not generating revenue the way it should be or as expected, is because of certain challenges that are being faced by rural settlers, faced in rural areas where certain things are being done and then faced generally. So if certain conditions are fixed, certain problems are solved, it will boost the level of marketing or trading, and there's a proportionality in that. As business activities increase, revenue will also increase because of tax increment. Because the more people that come to do business, the more taxes that they will pay, and then the more revenue the government will get. So in doing your report, you should be grounded. You should have the profundity of certain things the government stand to gain too, so that as the report is being addressed, you can put that in place, that this is how this is being made. This is what the dwellers or the settlers say about this. And it is believed that if the government fix this or does that, it would motivate more people to come for one or two things. It would engineer this, it will foster that, so that the report can make the government to act. There are a lot of things that are going on today. The government is acting on certain things today based on reports that the government has received from the media, based on media report, television report. Because the governors and president, they have media aids. Even when they don't watch or have the time to watch certain programs or listen to certain news stories, they have media aids that normally follow development, and they pass this message to them that, Mr. President, this is what people are saying in this community, this is what happened, and this is what is going on. Uh, Governor, this is what is happening in this area. It was reported on this channel that this is what happened. So the playback or the recorded report is being shown to the president or the governor by the media aides to see. So once the governor or the president sees that, the governor or the president sees that, you see them trying to take action. So, but this contract was awarded. Why has it not been executed? So certain media report expose corruption in the government, because there are certain things that government might approve funds for such things to be executed, and then those in charge of doing that might not be on site or ignore going there. So your report would draw the attention of the government to the same situation, that contract has been awarded to be fixed. And then the government would say, the contract was awarded for this to be done. Why is it that the contractors have not been on site? So it will make the government remind the contractors that, see, what's going on. We just watch on TV that the culverts or the bridges that contract have been awarded to be done haven't started, and the rural settlers or dwellers are complaining that it was shown on TV that an accident occurred because of the bridge or culvert not put in order. So it will help to take action and bring those responsible to book. So the media, TV in particular, has a very big role to play and has already been doing that, as we have been seeing on various television channels. So 3Ps Media Limited is training all of you to be able to do things more professionally, so that you will do things with competence. That is the reason this training is ongoing. So you need to understand that rural development must be included in your coverages. Rural development must be included in your coverages. You need to take that very seriously. Now, there may be places that you might go to that those who you may meet may not understand English. At times, you may just find one person that understands English, but maybe not actually standard English, maybe pidgin. And then from there, the person would be interpreting. So there are certain places you go and you may not be able to get someone who understands it. That is the reason before you go to any place, you must do your research. Research is very important in journalism. Research is extremely important. It is part of the pre-production process in news production. You need to do your research and ask. You need to ask people, this area, you want to go to this area to conduct a research. You want to go to Bangu in Bandika local government to conduct a research on this kind of thing. You need to do a story on a particular issue and you are not from that place. You don't understand TIF, and you were told that there are people there who don't understand English. So how can you go about it? So you begin to look for a way to get someone who understands TIF that would go with you as an interpreter, who, as you're asking questions in English, the person would be asking in TIF language, and as the interviewee gives their replies in TIF, the interpreter will now tell you in English so that you will be able to get your story. That is the aspect that normally happens in places where you may meet people who don't understand or speak English. So you can't say, well, because those people don't understand English in the village, so you cannot go and speak. You don't know how to speak their language or their dialect. You won't go. But no, you have no excuse because you must find one person who understands English from that area that you can take along to help you interpret. That is the reason journalism work requires patience, requires commitment, requires diligence, requires being hardworking. There are a lot of characteristics that a journalist must exhibit to be professional. So once you lack one or two of the characteristics, it will affect your level of professionalism. So it is expected that television journalists should be well composed people, careful people, should be quick thinker, should be able to reason outside the box, should always be patient and ask questions carefully. You not ask questions carelessly. There are some questions that are careless questions. They are useless questions because they don't make sense. Some questions can ignite crisis, can cause problem. So even when you have hate in your mind, there are certain questions that you shouldn't ask. You must you must you must have the conviction of what you're doing. You should have that self-judgment to know that certain things are not morally right to do. So you don't need anyone to tell you because the training will already tell you that you don't have to do this. Your conscience will tell you you don't have to say this. You don't have to do or ask this type of question that will provoke someone. So as journalists, you are not supposed to be troublemakers. You're not supposed to be people that will ignite crisis and create unrest. You're supposed to bring peace by giving reports that will enhance peace, that will bring peace, that will make even warring areas to hands down, to sheathe their sword and embrace peace. So in doing your work, you must ensure that you follow the things that are required to be done. There are certain rural areas that when you go there to do anything, you'll be told that before you proceed with your work, you need to go see a particular traditional ruler who is in charge of the clan or district or settlement, as the case may be, or the leaders who are there. So you need to go there, greet the person, and they will tell you what is expected to be done. This is how it should be. So you don't just go into an area and then you start doing any research work or start covering stories, especially in rural areas. You need to introduce yourself. That is the reason there should be a means of identification. I think I don't know when that will happen, but once the training is done, is completed, and those who are certified worthy to stay with Three-Piece Media and be issued identity cards that would help them carry out their work effectively. Because there are certain places that you need to present your identity card. Your identity should be known. Who are you? Where do you work? Bring your ID card. You are a reporter with this particular media organization, and you are here to conduct an interview on the plight of these people, what they're going through, or you heard that they have a challenge in this area, and you're here to actually conduct an intensive interview to bring the plight to the knowledge of the government and those who might be willing to support. So your explanation would make them happy. By seeing the ID card will now tell you the process to go about it before you can begin your work. So don't just go to any place and start carrying out any work because you are a reporter. No, there are certain communities that have places that people don't go, strangers don't go. So you are trained as journalists to ask questions. So you shouldn't behave ignorantly only to say you didn't know, that you thought it was like that. No, journalists are supposed to be to be careful. They are supposed to ask questions to know. They are supposed to be conscious at all times. So you need to ask questions to know. You ask, are there any restrictions in your village? They will tell you certain forests, you don't have to go there at a particular time. Certain streams, you don't have to cross them at a particular time. Or when this happens, you have to be indoor. You don't go here when the sun changes position or direction to this state. Or you don't go there when it's raining. So you need to ask questions to know. So once you go to any rural area to cover any story, you need to ask questions. Ask people there, this is what you want to do. This is who you are. And you want to do a report on this or a documentary on this and that. So you need to know who to meet to seek permission, who to meet to receive guardians. So you must meet somebody, and the person will take you to who is in charge of a particular clan, a district, community. So from there, you will be told on what to do, or maybe in the process, the person can assign someone to you that will be with you throughout the course of the interview or the production that you are doing. And where you have challenges, you'll be directed on who to meet. Then if it's places that you require accommodation, they can make way to provide accommodation for you and then tell you certain rules that should be kept or certain regulations that should be kept, and all that might be involved throughout your stay in conducting the interview or doing the documentary or other activities that might be involved. So you must be extremely careful in rural community development or in rural development. You must follow the right processes, you must follow the right steps so that you will have no cause to regret. Because there are places that have certain festivals. They will tell you on Mondays, people don't go out from a particular time, or they will tell you certain dates as their festivals, they don't do this, or on their market days, you don't do this, you don't do that on their market days. So you must ask to know the activities of a particular rural community you intend to carry out any production, any news story, any research that you want to, you must ask questions enough. You must be satisfied with the questions that you ask for clarity. The reason is to know so that you won't be found wanting. It will be very, 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 it will be wrong, very for you to actually do anything as a result of ignorance. When something happens to people as a result of ignorance, it is more painful than when it is as a result of negligence. Ignorance means that you don't know at all. Negligence means that you know about it, but you decided to do otherwise based on reasons best known to you. So when certain things happen to people because of ignorance, they will cry and say, if I had known, I wouldn't have done that. And truly, if they had known, they wouldn't have done that just because they didn't know. Then some will know that this place, you are not supposed to go there in the night, but they will want to go there and see what will happen. But they were warned not to do that. That becomes negligence. You know the consequences. You were told that if you go there at night, you will be blind, or you have short sight, or you may have certain defects, health defects. So you don't have to go there, but you insisted to go and just see what will happen. That becomes negligence. So a journalist is not supposed to even do anything as a result of ignorance or negligence. These two should not be should not be part of a reporter, should not be part of television journalist. You must be certain of what you are doing. You must not work under assumptions. You must not work with assumptions. You should not assume that, well, you felt this will be like this, or you thought this will be like this. Even with rumor, you don't have to work with rumors. Yes, a rumor cannot be used as a story. You must have your facts before you work. They said, who said? They said he stole. How do you know that the person stole? So you need to be careful, not just hearing from third parties and acting and then putting a story so that you won't be caught in the web of defamation. So it is expected that television journalists should follow all the procedures required in rural reporting so that it will enhance rural development. So you all have a part to play in promoting rural communities. You can do that and bring development in a very unimaginable magnitude. Thank you. Here ends today's session. Uh, by the time we meet next, we'll focus on other activities that I will update all of you on the WhatsApp group. Okay, somewhere I've seen your question, sir. Where there is no interpreter at the spot, what should a journalist do in order to get a very sensitive information? Thank you very much. That is a very wonderful question. You see, if you come in contact with this kind of challenge, where it is something that is very, very important, that you cannot get an interpreter at the spot, what should you do? You need to make certain calls. You need to try to make calls. Then if it's a situation where you cannot make call, you try to communicate. There is a way you can obtain information even when you don't actually get anybody to speak to you in English. You can ask questions in English, and if the person is trying to demonstrate or interpret, you can be able to at least get a knowledge of what is happening. And then from there, you can compose yourself to actually find an interpreter, except if it is something that is going to pass, maybe something that is breaking. But certain stories can can give room for you to get an interpreter. I mean, where are you that you can't get an interpreter? Is this something that cannot because an event that happens in the morning can be reported in the night. Not all events can be reported at the same time. So some can be reported in the night, some can be reported depending on the bulletin of the television station. So you need to actually do what you can to obtain the information. If there's no interpreter on ground, you can do your best to see how you can get an interpreter at all costs. If you cannot find one, then you need to make use of what you can do. And that is just it. You cannot kill yourself to get an interpreter in a situation where none is available and all effort to get one proved abortive. All right. Uh, Thank you very much. We have come to the end of this session. See you next time. Thank you.